everybody, it's Kelly from Let's Get Clacking, and in today's video, as promised from last week, we're going to go over making some Christmas tags for your gifts. What you're going to need in this video is everything to my left. One of the most fun things that I like to use when making Christmas tags is my foil quill. The next thing we're going to be using is obviously some foil. Now this goes hand in hand with the foil quill, and when you buy the foil quill they actually even give you some foil with it, so you could always use that. But I want to use red and gold colours as those are our colours for Christmas this year. You can go with coloured cardstock if you want to just use gold foil, or you can go with some white cardstock if you want to use both red and gold foil on the same tag. Another thing that you will need for your paper tags and when you're using the foil is transfer tape. If you don't have transfer tape, you can use contact paper. That'll work just as well. A fun alternative to using paper and foil for Christmas tags is clear Perspex discs. Now generally these discs are quite cheap, so you'll probably get away with paying a couple of rand for one of them. And this one is a 2.5mm thick disc, so it's very light, it's relatively cheap, and you can buy them in bulk, or you can buy them in, quantities of like 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, and it won't cost you all that much. So for this you can use either heat transfer or adhesive vinyl. So I will be making a few of these to show you how to make these as well. Well, let's get clacking. In Cinema Studio, we start out with everything on 12x12. Paper, mat, everything. We have to have the grid enabled because we need to see where the markings are on the cutting mat. We need to make sure that there's a little bit of an edge on the outer rim because of the foil. So the foil is 13 centimeters wide, and we need to make sure that everything that we cut is going to be smaller than that, and I will show you why in a moment. So let's make lines indicating the foil. Okay, so let's change the ratio at the top here. Let's make that 13, and the width can be 30. Okay, let's just move that onto the page like that. And what we want to do is we want to have a block of paper that will be going from the first square down to the fourth square. So it's only going to be 4 inches wide. And the reason why I'm mentioning inches is not centimeters is because most of our cutting mats have the 12x12 grid on them. So we're going to use that to our advantage today. I'm going to take a second square, or rectangle actually, and I'm going to put that here. So the second square is going to indicate our paper. So I'm actually going to color that a solid white so that we know where it is. I may even upweight the border just to distinguish between the paper and where we're going to have the foil. Okay, so I've got a few different tags that I want to, tag shapes that I want to use. I'm just going to arrange them on the page to be a little bit more economical. Then I also have a few shapes that I've selected from the design store, and I'm just going to bring those in as well. Okay, so play around with these. Now what I've done here is, instead of having red cut lines, I've actually made the cut lines a yellowy color so that I can kind of get the idea of what it'll look like once it's been done with the foil. So I've made the line a 0.1 just to see what it'll look like. Then what I want to do for this one is I want to do an internal offset because I think it'll look really pretty to have like an internal layer on the inside. And I'm going to change that to the same color, and I'm going to do the same with this one as well. And now it's all ready to go to the center panel to be foiled. What we need to do here, let's just select everything. Let's click no cut, and then we need to make sure the designs are selected because the designs will need to be sketched and not cut. That's very important. So let's change that from cut to sketch, and let's put the sketch on. Selected the wrong one there, no sketch. And then we also need this to be sketched too. now that this is cut, we're not going to put the paper straight onto the mat like you would think. What we're going to do is we're going to take our transfer tape and put our transfer tape onto the mat first. We now have our transfer tape. We're going to put our transfer tape on our mat. Okay. Our piece of cardstock is now exactly the size that the square is, or the rectangle is, on Silhouette Studio. And we're going to look at the page here, and we're going to put it then on those marks right there. Now, you're probably wondering, why do we do this? Well, when you work with foil, you have to stick it down onto the mat in order for it to not move. And then you end up having to use a ton of tape, and then it gets stuck everywhere, and then maybe you get some of the foil onto your mat. It's a pain. So by doing this, what you're doing is you're essentially protecting your mat. I might get a little bit of foil here, so I might just cut it a little bit short. But we take the foil, going to start on this side just because I don't want it to go over the sticky edge. Make sure that it covers the entire paper. Okay. What you need to do is make sure that it stays tight onto the paper, and then you just flatten it out. So now there's almost no movement in the foil. You don't have to worry about sticking tape down. It is the best hack ever. That might be a little bit of a problem. The foil there got damaged as I was pulling the sticky tape off, but it should be fine. It'll still look great. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my Silhouette, but I'm going to plug my Foil Quill in so long. So this is everything that comes in the adapter, the Foil Quill. Like I mentioned, you've got gold, rose gold and silver in it already. Probably could have used this one as well. I think it's about the same length, width, tiny bit wider. So if you wanted to go for this one, I think it's about 15 centimeters. You can. I like to use the middle side, so this one is the thin, that's the middle size thickness, and that's the thick one. I prefer to use the middle, so I'm just going to take that one out. And I've obviously used it many times, so I've got the adapter A in it, which is for the Cameo 3. If you have the Cameo 4, you can use adapter D, and then you have adapter C and B. To be honest, I don't know which ones they're for, as I've never really needed them, but I would imagine they might be for the Cricut machines or something like that. And obviously, what you're doing on the Cameo, you can do on the other machines as well. So you want to perhaps plug this in before you do the mat, so that it can start to warm up, because obviously it is heat. So I'm just going to plug it in, wait a couple minutes, and then carry on filming. I've also heard that generally it's best to not plug this into the Cameo, but to rather use an external power source. I use my laptop, but you can use a power bank as well if you have one, a portable power bank. And then once you've plugged it in, it has a light to say that it's on, so then you know that it's starting to warm up. Obviously it's cold. So we can see that's all cut. I'm not going to unload it, but what I will do is pull the foil paper off. I put the blade back in. pull the foil paper off. Careful not to remove the other paper. And now we're going to use our blade to normal cut around the tags. As always, we make sure that our cut has cut properly, and it looks like it has, so let's unload. Okay, so we can just pull this off carefully. Perfect, absolutely perfect. Now we can take this and we can just lift them up. Okay, so obviously you'll notice how the foil stuck to the page, the edge of the page. Now, if we hadn't used transfer tape, that would have been on your mat. But because we use transfer tape, you can just pull it off and your mat is completely clean. But what I normally tend to do is I tend to use this piece again because I don't want to waste my transfer tape. So I will make a smaller piece and put it in the middle there somewhere, just so we don't lose this entire piece of transfer tape. And here we have our gift tags, so we can see how beautifully they came out. The only one that didn't come out very nicely was that one, but it still looks beautiful. Even the writing looks stunning. So now what you can do is on the other side, you can use sticker paper and put a sticker on there of who the gift is for, which is what I did last year. I did print and cut stickers. So now we're going to start with our Perspex discs. And what I've done is I want to create a type of vinyl where it has like almost like a paint swatch in the background with one color and then another color on top of that. So there are two ways that we can do this. Number one is to have the name cut out of the paint swatch, so like a negative, or we can just create two different cuts and layer them on top of each other. What I've done on my mat is to have two different colors on the same mat so that I can cut everything at once and not have to worry about changing everything over. So the gold I have going up until block 7. So again, I'm going to take a square just so that I know what is what on my mat, and I'm going to take it up to block 7, and then the remainder will then be the red. So my Perspex discs are 6 centimeters in diameter, so I need to make sure that the swatches are less than that. What I like to do is to test it to see what it's going to look like, kind of like a mock-up, as it were. So we have a 6 centimeter circle, and you see that would be too big, so we wanted to make it a little bit smaller. So I now know that that's the approximate size that I want to have my swatches. So I'm actually going to do some of each so they all look a little bit different. Let's add that one to the pile. So I'm going to make a couple more of those two. Now, when it comes to the names, let's go to the font tool, select a font. I'm like completely obsessed with the mermaid font, so I'm going to use this one, and this is going to be for my niece, whose name is obviously Lily. But now, very often what happens with this font is the bits get a bit too narrow to read. So what I like to do with this one is to have an offset, obviously not a very big offset, let's say a 0.02. Let's try, it's a little bit too small. Let's say 0.04. That's a little bit better. And then you still have the same font, but it's a little bit thicker. So it's a little bit easier to cut, it's easier to weed. You don't have to worry about it being difficult. Okay, so now I'm going to make another circle just to ensure that I'm getting the name sizing correct, because that's very important. So as an example, this will be gold and this will be red. So then you can see either that it'll fit, or if you want it to overlap a little bit, you can have it overlapping, and then you just make the rest. And now we send them to cut. Take the first swatch, stick it on. You can see dust and things underneath it. Then we peel the backing off the vinyl. Put the name tag. Then you have a perfect name tag for your gift, and you can just add a piece of ribbon and it will be beautiful. It is already beautiful. We carry on with the rest. I'm going to take a microfiber cloth and just wipe them down before I put the swatches on them. Well, thanks very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to maybe use the foil quill if you've never learned to use it before, or learn some new tricks on how to use the foil quill a little bit easier, because I know that it can be a big pain to use the foil quill sometimes. Obviously, we now have our gift tags, and you guys have seen how I made them, so you guys can go make your own. I would love to see what you guys make, so please tag me in any posts that you make on social media so that I can see just how you've put these ideas to use. Something I'd love to know is, what is your favorite craft to do at Christmas time? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear. If you want to see more of my videos in the future, you can subscribe to my channel on this side and hit the little notification bell down below, and it'll alert you when I release another video. On that side, it'll show you my latest video, and just below it, YouTube will show you something that they think that you'll enjoy. Until next time, everybody, and please remember, be kind to someone today. Bye!